Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Page, CEO and founder of Breaking the Glass, LLC. We are a career counseling and career coaching service, and today we want to talk to you about how to deal with conflict at work. So before we get started, we want to give you a little bit of background information of who Breaking the Glass is. So Breaking the Glass, we help people define their careers in a variety of different ways. First and foremost, what is going to be the best career based on your personality, education, experience, and preferences. We really take time to understand and get a really 360 perspective on you, and then we try to match you with the best career options possible. And then once we've defined your career, then we work on a career path so you can be successful, and we help you define what success means. And then last but not least is we help you define your brand. What does your personal brand say about you? When someone mentions your name, what do they think about, and what are the first thoughts that come? So these are some things that Breaking the Glass does for you. And today we want to spend some time talking about, once you're in your ideal career, how can you manage conflict when it comes up at work? So we want to start talking about the most common types of conflict in the workplace. These are the top 5 common issues that people have when they're working. The first one that's in the middle of everything is interdependence. It means that you have to rely on others to complete your goals, to complete your task, and your success is interdependent on them. And that can be very challenging in a workplace, because if people don't have the same dedication to their job and to their performance, it's going to make it hard for you to be successful. So conflict usually starts in this middle of interdependence. Other things that also cause conflict are things like style differences. So you might have a different style of work. You might approach work very differently than someone else that you are interdependent on. And so this can cause some conflict. This can cause questions about, well, why do you have to do it this way? Or you just need to do it the way I said. And so this is an important area to kind of recognize can be a problem area. There's also things about background and gender differences. The way that you approach something might have to do with your background and some prior experiences. And so this is also another area where people have questions or concerns about, well, why are you doing it this way? I thought you should be doing it differently. There's leadership differences. So each leader has their own individual leadership style, and they bring that leadership style to the table. And last but not least, there's personality differences. So there are several different types of personalities, and each personality is going to approach a situation very differently than someone else. So each of these areas are common sources for conflict in the workplace. So it's important to kind of recognize where the conflict might be stemming from so you can address it properly. So one of the most common areas, especially with interdependence, is peer-to-peer conflicts. You're on a team with someone, you're in the same department with someone, you and someone else have been assigned a similar duty, and you guys are having a conflict getting this duty completed. So first and foremost, it's important to recognize that conflicts are natural occurrences that happen, and that there's things that you can do to kind of minimize what those conflicts are. So if you're in a situation where you recognize that you're in a conflict with someone else, the first and probably most important thing to do is acknowledge that there's an issue. You have to acknowledge it before you can fix it. So it's time for you to kind of recognize, hey, we are not working together. We're not accomplishing our common goal. We are not able to move forward, and acknowledge that with your peer. Once you guys have put that on the table, the next most important thing to do is to schedule a discussion with them. It doesn't have to be formal. So depending on the level of conflict and how long it's lasted, you might say, let's go grab a coffee and let's talk about this, or let's take a walk. If the conflict is a little bit more heated, then you might want to schedule a more formal meeting with them and really talk to them about the issue. So when you're talking with someone about the issue, it's very critical that you actively listen to the other person in their discussion. So instead of saying, well, tell me your side of the story and I'm going to rebut everything that you say, actively listen to what the person is saying, what the person is feeling, the facts and their perspective, and empathize with them where they're coming from. Once you understand their side of the story and their picture of the conflict, now it's important for you to share your facts and perspectives on the situation. Now, it's really important to focus on the facts and your perspective versus feeling and opinion. If you focus on your feeling and your opinion, you're not going to be successful at resolving the conflict. You need to share the facts of how you guys got into the conflict and your perspective on it. And that's very important to do, and you have to have an open mind when you're doing this. This is a very hard area for people to kind of separate their opinion from their facts, and I would suggest you actually write down the facts and your perspective before you have the discussion. And then you need to talk about the outcome that you want to achieve. So if you are having an issue with you guys are on a project and you're unable to meet a deadline, talk about the facts. Hey, our deadline was Friday. We aren't able to hit it. From my perspective, I think we can. I would like for us to maybe work the weekend so we can have this done on Monday. It's very important for you to start sharing your outcome that you want to achieve. And then have a conversation with your peer about what that path forward should be. If you guys both agree that, yes, we do need to do something differently, yes, we do have a common goal that we're both trying to achieve, and we're willing to work with each other to get that goal done, then that's wonderful. You can move forward and hold each other accountable to the things that you've agreed on. If you're not able to come to a common agreement, this is the time where you need to escalate to your manager, saying, you know what, both of us came together, we're still seeing things a little bit differently, or we might not have a common goal that we're trying to accomplish. So it's very important for us to move forward and to discuss this with our manager. So that is a very good step to take to make sure that the conflict does not fester and linger for a long time. It's important to address a conflict sooner in the situation than later in the situation, because it's just going to get worse and more feelings and emotions are going to start overtaking the facts and the perspectives. The next area from a conflict perspective is conflicts with your boss. And this is probably one of the scariest areas to deal with. When you're having a conflict with your boss, you're worried about your job and you're worried about getting written up or even fired if things don't go well. So it's important to make sure that you are having a meeting of the minds with your boss and being open and self-reflective of what are the things that are going on. So just like with the conflict with your peer, it's important to acknowledge that there is an issue with your boss's expectations and yours. There's a gap. Your boss might expect you to be doing one thing and you have an expectation of doing something else. And so you really need to meet with your boss and understand why there's a gap in expectations and delivery. So this is where it's important to formally schedule something. Formally schedule a meeting with your boss and let your boss know, hey, I want to meet with you and discuss the issue about maybe performance or your expectations versus my expectations. And so scheduling that meeting will let your boss know that you are very serious about resolving this issue and that you actually want to do something differently moving forward. So once you have that meeting scheduled with your boss to confirm the expectations, actively listen to your boss's perspective in the conversation. Your boss might say, you know what, I expected you to deliver this report by Friday and you didn't deliver it. And you might have thought, oh, you delivery means I sent you an email with a report. It could be something as simple as that, but you won't know unless you meet with your boss and understand where that gap is. So once you hear your boss's perspective and their expectations on the situation, then you can share your facts and perspectives. So you can say, oh, okay, well, when you asked me to deliver that report, I was unsure what delivery meant. Now that I'm hearing you, I need to make sure I'm asking more confirming questions in the future. So if you're saying I need to deliver a report, who do I need to deliver that report to? When does it need to be delivered? How should it be delivered? Those types of questions can make sure that you don't end up in this situation again. And one of the most important things too, when you're having this conversation with your boss about expectations, is discuss how you can communicate and check in more effectively in the future. So for instance, if there was a question about how this needed to be delivered, you really should have focused on how the delivery method in the future. And so when you're having these check-in meetings, you can reconfirm all of the little details that might get missed in previous conversations. So this is a very important one to think about. All right, so here's some overall tips to help avoid conflicts, just in general. One, be transparent. So transparency is extremely important in today's workplace. If you cannot tell people what you're thinking and what the facts are about a situation, and they're unsure what you mean, what your goals are, what your direction is, it's going to cause some conflict. Have you ever been in a meeting where you come out and you're unsure of what the person was trying to get out of it? That's what happens when someone's not being transparent. And so it leaves a lot of guesswork and it leaves a lot of things open to interpretation, which is a very dangerous place in today's workforce. So if you're transparent and you're saying, hey, I know this is a hard project, I know we need to get it done, I know it's a tight time frame, and you're open about that, then it's going to make the conversation much different. Next, actively listen. So actively listen, not to respond to the communication, but to actually understand the perspective and the emotions that are coming from the other person. Active listening will really help you get past, well, you said this versus I said this, and really truly understand the point that the other person is trying to make. So that's very important. Also, focus on common goals. So if you guys are all on the same team, you might all have common goals that you want to achieve or need to achieve together. It's important that you focus on those common goals and remind each other, hey, we have this project that's due on this date. Once this project's done, yay, we all win. We are all successful. The more that you can focus on common goals, it reminds everyone we are a team and we're in this together. And so sometimes we need to make sacrifices as teams, and one person needs to do things differently, or sometimes someone else needs to pick up the slack, but that's okay because as a team, we're doing this together. Focusing on the facts. So again, taking the emotion out of the conversation, taking the feelings out of the conversations, and really focusing on the facts. Focusing on the facts of, hey, this is what we as a team need to do. This is when it needs to be done. These are the expectations that we are all instructed to meet, and really remind people about the facts. The more that you can focus on that and take emotion out of it and take opinion out of it, the easier it's going to be to avoid conflicts. And last but not least, be open-minded. Everyone has a different perspective. Everyone has a different opinion, and everyone has a different approach to things. And so if someone's doing something differently than what you feel is appropriate, be open to it. Is it going to get you the same results? Is it going to allow you to get the same goal? If the answer is yes, then that's perfect. It doesn't necessarily have to be your way for you to be successful. And that's where having an open mind and being willing to do things differently than you might prefer is going to help you be successful. So these are some key steps to help avoid conflict overall. One final suggestion, and I think this one is important, is be a Q-tip. No, we don't want to clean everyone's ears out at work, but when you think about being a Q-tip, it means quit taking it personally. So if someone is sharing facts with you about the work that you've delivered and you don't like these facts, but they're true facts. So if someone comes up to you and says, you know what you delivered is not meeting our standards, do not take it personal. Look at your work, be objective, and say, okay, if it didn't meet what I was supposed to deliver, let me do it again. I'm not going to hold a grudge against this person. I'm not going to think that this person is out to get me. I'm not going to take it personal. I'm going to look at it from a professional perspective and say, am I professionally meeting the goals that I need to do? And this is hard for people. I've actually worked with people who actually need to tape Q-tips to their desk to remind themselves on a more frequent basis that you can't take things personally. You have to ensure that you're doing things to meet the other person's needs. So Q-tip is a great reminder to people of don't take things personally. Really look at it from a professional perspective and really have some self-reflection. Are you really doing the things that you need to do in order to take the project or to achieve the goal that needs to be done? All right. Are there any questions? Okay, since there's no questions, wanted to give you some information again about Breaking the Glass. So you can come to our website where we have a lot of webinars and other videos stored. So visit us at breakingtheglass.info. You can also visit our Facebook page, Breaking the Glass 2. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. So there's a variety of different ways that you can get in touch with us.